I understand what Avi did, but I still think he's a fucking asshole for doing this. The actual like WADA or IOC requirements, it also has to come with a history of actual medical treatment showing that you are actually going through or have gone through the transitionary process.
I think the only answer is to...
They're making rules where it's like you have to take exogenous hormones in a federation where our whole approach is you can't take exogenous hormones. I don't
that's
know.
not a bottle of estrogen. That's tren.
Yeah, that's why this whole thing is like, what the fuck gets done here? What's the solution?
So this video, you should check it out. We got a link below. It's from Nate the Lawyer. Something just happened where a man competed in a competition. He's not actually trans, but within the rule set, he was able to identify as a woman and potentially break some records. So let's check this out.
What?
So this male powerlifter entered the women's event and broke all the records. Let's talk about it.
I don't know if I'd be able to break any records with how
So this is
strong women
Avi
are.
Silverberg.
Seriously.
Now, he is the head coach for Team Canada's powerlifting team, and he's been in that position for about 10 years. Now, this is the Canadian Powerlifting Union and their trans inclusion policy. So without reading the entire policy, it essentially says that an athlete gets to tell the organizers what their gender identity is, and the organizers have to allow them to participate in the events with the gender that they identify with. So if you're a biological male and you say, I identify as a woman, then they must allow you to compete with the women in that event.
We've had Janae Kroc on the podcast, and Janae, formerly Matt Kroc, she's a woman, and she said that she chooses not to compete in on the woman's side of anything because of, well, all of the advantages that she's attained, right? So what I brought up with her was something kind of that's kind of odd because, you know, none of the guys on the male side of powerlifting are afraid of anybody transitioning and identifying as male and competing with men. None of the men that have records are scared. But this is something that mainly could affect female records. You know?
Yeah, and I think the reason for that is like just on a biological level is because like it's the same approach where like someone like we talked about it the other day, when the first time that you use testosterone, you cause epigenetic and genomic changes on like the cellular and the biological level that theoretically change what is going on in terms of your musculature for the rest of your life. It's the same instance when someone goes through male puberty, they can potentially experience the same things. It's not like there's conflicting science viewpoints where it's like they may or may not, depending on whether or not they're actually weight training or eating a protein-rich diet and actually causing those epigenetic changes to occur.
Yeah.
But I think that's why it's not really an issue for male powerlifters, but female powerlifters are the ones that would potentially see if there were any negative outcomes from this happening, they would be the ones to experience it.
Policy also makes it clear that, quote, individuals are not required to disclose their trans identity or history to the CPU or to any of the CPU's representatives.
See, and that's unique to the CPU, I think, isn't it? Do we have any idea? I could be wrong, but I think the CPU, that's kind of the key here. There's no history required or no like, not therapeutic use exemption, but no like medical history showing that the individual who is a transgender female, they've undergone like what I honestly don't know the terms and I don't want to like say stuff that's like insensitive or whatever, but they haven't gone through the transitionary process or received like hormonal treatment to essentially tank their natural testosterone production, which will essentially tank their biological strength levels. So I think, I could be wrong, but I think that's the key with the CPU is that they don't require any of that to be brought to them, and why Avi was able to just be like, I'm a woman as a big bearded guy who's obviously, he's like self-admitted not a transgender female, but he said, I'm just going to enter as a female as a form of protest to show them how this was wrong or whatever.
With this one, I think that's the big deal, though. There's nothing else but just saying, hey, you can literally go up and say, I'm a woman, even though you don't have to give any history.
Yeah, where to my knowledge, I think the actual like WADA or IOC requirements are not that you have to declare it, but it also has to come with a history of like actual medical transitional. Again, I don't know the words, but like treatment showing that you are actually going through or have gone through the transitionary process. So I get this, and we'll get into it because I'm sure there's more detail here, but like I understand what Avi did, but I still think he's a fucking asshole for doing this, because it's like I get the issue here, but you can do it in a much, much better way, but I'm sure they're going to go into it later.
And I think these federations, and whether it's the Olympics or whatever, all these companies or whatever you want to call them, committees, they're just trying to do their best, right?
Yeah.
With a situation where they're trying to be sensitive to. And I don't think anyone has like a clear cut answer on exactly, how to approach it.
No, and that's my exact point with this, because like, yes, it's very obvious that the CPU, if this is unique to them, which I think it is, if this is unique to them, they probably should reevaluate their policy and approach it in a different way to protect their female athletes from stuff like this from happening. But the key here is Avi, and obviously I'm biased because I'm very, very close with some trans people and some non-binary people. So I'm kind of going to err on the side of like empathy and just like being a good person as a whole. He didn't do it to take female records. He did it to take records from a transgender female.
Wait, so the record was held by a transgender female?
I believe so.
I believe so as well. I'm pretty sure.
Pretty confident in that. Yeah, I don't know the person's name, but so that's the issue here. That's why if Avi watches this or someone sends it to him, I apologize for calling him a fucking asshole. But it's a little bit of an insensitive approach when you legitimately go out of your way not to make a statement to protect females, but legitimately to go after one transgender female, because this policy, I believe, was put into place for the thought of inclusivity and like, let's just be good and let's be good to people and encourage participation and be accepting of other individual situations. This guy literally went out of his way to be like, no, fuck you in particular, because I want to protect my female athletes, but I think you could protect your female athletes in a much more less of an abrasive approach, in my opinion.
Power Project family, your normal shoes are making you weak. This is why I partner with Vivo Barefoot Shoes, because they have a wide toe box, they're flat, and they're flexible. So with every single step you're taking, if you're taking a 10-minute walk outside, or when you're working out in the gym, your feet are able to do what they're supposed to do in this shoe. They have tons of options for hiking, running, training in the gym, chilling and relaxing, casual shoes for if you're out on a date. You need to check them out. And Andrew, how can they get it?
Yes, that's over at vivobarefoot.com/powerproject, and you guys will receive 15% off your order automatically. Again, vivobarefoot.com/powerproject. Links to them down in the description, as well as the podcast show notes.
The Canadian Powerlifting Union is just going to take your word for it. If you want to compete with the women and you're a biological male, you just tell them, I identify as a woman, and they'll let you compete. So this policy allowed trans women to compete with women in powerlifting. Now, this is Annie Andrews. She was the record holder in women's powerlifting in Canada. The record for a bench press that she held was 275 pounds. Now, Annie Andrews won 8 out of 9 competitions she entered in the women's category over the past 4 years. So now enter Avi Silverberg. He goes to the women's competition and he says, well, hey, even though I look like this, I identify as a woman. And he is allowed to compete in the women's competition. He then goes on to shatter Annie Andrews' record of 275 pounds on the bench press by bench pressing nearly 370 pounds, making him the current women's record holder by nearly 100 pounds. Now, here's the video of him going and breaking the women's bench pressing record in Canada with a lift of 370 pounds. Check it out.
It's interesting if this guy, I don't know who the fuck this guy is who made this video.
Yeah.
And Andrews is a transgender female.
Huh.
So that's the whole issue that I take with this whole thing. He went out of his way to essentially bully an individual who was just seeking participation, in my opinion, and used it as to make a statement to protect female athletes. But it doesn't really seem like that's the entire goal here when you take a step back and realize what actually happened.
Now, let me ask you this. I'm curious about your thoughts on this because technically, yeah, what he's doing here is trying to prove a point, and it is bullying that trans athlete. But this is where people end up having difficulty with people or men that transition to women, and they're now trans women in these sports because someone like Annie Anders, right?
I don't know, honestly.
Right. Okay. She transitioned and then she took a female bench record. Mm-hmm. Now, we know that the bench press is something that for a majority of biological women is that lift that there's going to be the biggest discrepancy between men and women. Like the squat, the deadlift, there are some very strong squats and deadlifts on the women's side, but the bench is going to be the place that there's a much bigger gap between biological men and biological women. And then a trans athlete comes and breaks the female bench record. Mm-hmm. That is tough to try to rationalize and be like, it makes you wonder, should there maybe be an asterisk next to that record? Because again, I have no problem with people identifying with what they are. And because you are a woman, okay, you're a woman. You're a man, okay, you're a man. Mm-hmm. But I wonder, do the biological women that are competing in powerlifting and the woman that had her record broken by this trans athlete, is she fine with it? You know, that's, and I don't know if any of us have the capacity to like truly answer that or figure out what's what there, but that is a problem.
I think the only answer is to just go with your genetics. Unfortunately, just what were you born as? I don't know if there's room for anything else unless you want to make another category. Maybe that's the only thing I can think of.
See, and this is such a hard topic to have, and why it's like I'm going to lean towards like more of an inclusivity approach because of my own personal biases, and it's like that's okay. Mm-hmm. And it's just something to think about because this is not equating race to like transgender issues, but Nsima as a black man, like in the United States past, there was segregation, and it was literally ruled that separate is not equal. Mm-hmm. In the context of race, a lot of people make the argument that if there were to be a male-female category and then a trans or an MX category, the USAPL has an MX category, I think, is that okay, or is that just is that like segregation with extra steps or something? And it's like, I don't have that answer. I don't know. And I think, at least for me, what I would look at is like, what like this weight, it's the 125 kg weight class, I think. So like 275 pound weight limit. Mm-hmm. What if we were to look at like who is the greatest natural female bench presser in that particular weight class? What is the biological female, like what is the capacity to bench that weight? And I would probably argue that it's not 167.5 kg that Avi hit. I would think it was more close to Annie's bench press, which is 275 pounds. Because yes, the exception isn't the rule, but like, look at Jen Thompson. She weighs 132 pounds, and she's a biological female. She's a 40 I think something year old female who bench presses well into the 300s. And while yes, it's not exactly feasible to be like, okay, well, what about Jen? It's just as infeasible to apply a situation, in my opinion, where Anne is one individual in a federation with 10,000 participants, and this is like 1% of a 1%, or 1% of a 1% instance. Yeah. Where it's like, are we really going to, I don't want to say like bully or destroy her hopes or dreams or her ideals just to make a statement, when it would be a little bit easier and a little bit more inclusive and a little bit more human to just be like, hey, in this particular instance, yeah, it's okay. Come with your, like, follow the IOC and WADA guidelines, and you're cool. Because that's one person in one weight class in one subcategory in one federation. Yeah. And it's, from my perspective, it's a little bit easier and a little bit more human to be like, that's okay. Because it's not really affecting that many people. And I would think the best way to figure out whether or not it's okay or not is talk to the other 120. I don't know if this is her weight class, but like talk to the other women in her weight class. Be like, what do you guys think? Because I was following this a little bit when it was being posted about, and Anne or Annie, again, I don't know, but she posted photos with other women in her weight class, not Avi, who were very, very happy that she was there and very happy that she was competing. And it really seems like the people that are most vocally upset and against this type of stuff are guys. And it's just an interesting observation that I've made over the course of this. And just, I haven't taken like huge conversation points or talking points about this just because it's so everybody gets really upset about it.
Oh yeah. The comment section is going to be interesting.
Yeah. But it's just, I don't know. It's like, are we really going to like go out of our way just to like fuck this one particular person when it's like 1% of 1% of a population, when it would be a lot easier and a lot more human to just be like, hey, like just maybe expand upon our guidelines a little bit.
Yeah.
And then we'll be okay. But I don't know. I really don't know.
Me neither.
So. You can keep playing it, but like 167.5 kg, that's like what, like 360 something pounds?
Yeah, I think I said 370.
370, and it's like, I don't think I think that's a little outside the realm of a natural female to hit.
Oh, that's very outside, yeah.
And it's like, well, why is it okay that Avi did this and kind of nuked a record for the rest of history?
It's all really interesting.
Know.
It's all really interesting. I mean, what if a transgender person came in like this other girl that was in the competition that previously had the record, and what if they just lifted the same weight? Right. Yeah. You know, so it's interesting that like there's never really actions that take place until, you know, like big companies. When big companies start to make crazy amounts of money, that's when action is taken against them. When things like this happens, like no one cares when it's like kind of minor and like not that big of a deal, and like, oh, it's only 20, 30 pounds over the best of somebody else, but now it's 100 pounds over. And then, you know, what's going to kind of continue to happen here? I don't know. I don't know if sports are meant to be fair, honestly. Yeah. And I don't know if everything can be inclusive. I don't know. And I don't think anyone has the answer. And so I think, yeah, you try to come up with the best idea that you can that's going to be the most fair, I guess. But this seems like it's not a great idea. But bad ideas are great because they get you to move forward towards better ideas. So maybe this will spawn someone to say, oh, you know what, if we implement this other rule and we do this, and I think we're good, you know? Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of what I'm saying, because there are like IOC and WADA guidelines for trans athletes. And it's like, why is powerlifting so unique that we can't seem to wrap our heads around that? Like, maybe that's just what we should do, you know, and actually treat it like a sport, like every other thing is treated like a sport. But I don't know. And that's a question for the CPU, because I don't even, are they like an IPF affiliate? I think they're an IPF affiliate. I don't know. I have no idea. But it's just kind of like it seems like they just really, really leaned into the we're going to be inclusive thing, because you don't have to report anything. I could walk in and just be a female. And it's like, imagine if I did that and squatted 850 pounds, like what, like, come on, you know? Yeah, I'm sure they had a meeting too, and they were probably like, look, no one's going to do that.
Right, yeah. And then Avi decided like he wanted to make a statement. And as insensitive as it may have been, it's a valid one, because it's going to force them to expand upon the ruling. It's just, personally, I'm like, he probably could have done that a little bit better. Yeah. But that's just me. So
yeah, he pumped that like it was not even a problem. So after he casually bench pressed at 370, breaking the record by nearly 100 pounds, then the people got really, really, really upset at Avi. They said that he was making a mockery of the sport. And to even throw more salt in the wound, the former record holder was right there and had a front row seat to watch him do it, to watch her record go down in flames. Now, Andreas felt that this was so wrong that they allowed a man to break her record. She actually posted a lengthy video about it, calling him a coward and a bigot because he did this with malicious intent as a biological man competing in the woman's category. You heard exactly right. Matter of fact, listen to it yourself.
Hey folks, just a super quick update. Yes, somebody did show up at the meet today with malicious intent. And you know what? It was nothing. It was just entirely ignored. People lifted. I volunteered. Everyone was happy that I was there. And it really struck me that maybe my participation isn't necessarily fair. I mean, there's science, whatever. But people welcome me because I'm actually nice to people. I show up and I try to make everyone happy.
This ain't about being nice. It has nothing to do with being nice to people. So I just think that things like this, they get you in like a really weird spot. Mm-hmm. What if the other guy came in and he was nice?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah. I just think it puts us in a wacky place. Well, but again, I hope that any of these organizations can figure out ways to have rules where people are comfortable. You're probably never going to have everyone be happy. Probably never going to have everybody comfortable. But it'd be great to try to figure something out. But it's kind of interesting that she's mad about it when she competes in this federation and she competes under the same rules. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
like she didn't. This man that competed and broke the record by identifying as a woman. Avi. He didn't write the rules.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think this is like. I don't know, like, because I didn't see this video, but it's like, it's interesting to see. It's just like anytime you get emotion tied into any of this, because it's like we can talk about this and be removed, and it's like, well, my bias is this, blah blah blah. You think this, blah blah blah, and that's okay because none of us are wrong, none of us are right here, really. But then you get a video where Anne is posting and she's obviously emotional, and it's like, fuck, I don't want to say that it's intentionally put out to feel bad, but it's like it's the same way that Avi is probably making a statement and trying to like rile people up and be like, hey, come on, get a reaction. Come on. Mm-hmm. She, even whether it's intentional or not, she's probably doing the same because she's looking for support and she probably just feels shitty for a lot of complicated reasons. And she's just posting on her Instagram being like, I want to have people support me. So,
you know what though? Like the one thing that I do wonder though is, and nothing against Anne, but the tough thing is that the woman whose record she broke, because of how spicy this whole fucking type of topic is, women who are potentially getting beat in these situations, or biological women who are getting beat in these situations, if they came and they were unhappy about it, there would be people that would be throwing stones at them, calling them bigots and calling them non-inclusive because of their viewpoint and that. And then there would be people that are on their side that are like, oh yeah, this is totally right. But it's hard for women on that side because they're in it to come forward, because either way, whatever side you take, you're either a bigot or you're speaking truth to some people, right?
Yeah.
Us, we're dudes on this end. Again, you're not worried about your record ever being broken by a trans man, right? Mm-hmm. It's an easier place on our side, to be perfectly honest.
It is.
I think that matters a hell of a lot more than people give it credit for. People want me there because I'm actually nice to people. Just a little thought. I'm all good, and the CPU will continue, and be nice to each other. Lift heavy circles.
APU, with the situation with that one lifter claiming to be trans just to get those medals and setting records and all that stuff. Here's the problem. You shouldn't really be asking me, because I ultimately... I mean, weird thing to say. I come from a place of privilege, which, like I said, is weird to say. You got to keep in mind, I transitioned almost 20 years ago. I got all of my papers done. I have my passport. I got surgery. I can prove without any doubt whatsoever that I have gone through every step.
Now, Andreas goes on to say that I actually care about women in sport because I am a woman in sport. Now, it's time for us to keep it 100. There's a reason why we have men's sports and women's sports. We understand that there are biological differences between the genders that would make it unfair for us to just have one sport for one gender, right? We don't have women's soccer and men's soccer, and they compete in the same league for the one World Cup, right? There's a women's World Cup and a men's World Cup. Now, I do understand. You have people who transition from male to female or from female to male, and they still want to compete in sports. I understand that, and I do feel sorry for those who want to. But how do you fix the problem of the reality of biological differences? Men are faster, stronger, and it's not because of any bias, it's because of biology. Testosterone makes the difference. Now, I do understand that this woman wants to compete with other women, but is that really fair to all those other women who are competing?
Yeah, I think to Nsima's point, like whose record is her name? Anne? Is that what
I believe so.
Whose record did Anne break? And how does that woman feel about it? I don't know. Maybe she's like in favor of it. Right. I don't know. But again, I think, these are just like ugly situations because now she's talking about like how long ago it was and then like, I don't know how do we put that into the rules?
And that's kind of like to the point of like fairness that you were talking about, because all this video is showing me, and I think you guys would probably share the viewpoint, is like it's not an issue for Avi, it's not an issue for Anne to figure out. This puts the onus on the CPU because this just shows, hey, your protocol that you guys approached with fucking sucks. Because it's like, I don't need to show a passport, I don't need to show any proof, anything to say that I am a female. And I could walk in here and like compete as a female. That's crazy to me.
Yeah.
And obviously did her due diligence, I guess, in the sense of like she transitioned and it's like is actually a transgender female and gone through the entire process and has the records to show that. But that's not it. Like she wasn't obligated to do that. She could have done the same thing that Avi did if she chose to, but obviously she didn't because that's not who she is. But it's not Avi's fault. It's not her fault. It's like the CPU, they need to understand that like if they want to avoid ugly situations like this, they probably need to add some parameters to those rules.
The weird thing is, though, what are the parameters?
Right,
because like to be a trans man, Anne herself said that she got surgery, she did et cetera, X, Y, and Z. But you don't have to get surgery to be a trans man. And this is like transgender individuals mention this. You don't have to get surgery. You don't even have to get HRT to say and believe that you're trans. You don't have to. You know what I mean? So that's the thing. It's like you can be trans without getting HRT. You can be trans without getting any type of reconstructive surgery. So then what type of the parameters does an organization get to say, well, no, you're not trans because you didn't do this, but then that individual's like, but I am.
And it's even doubly more of an issue because I think the CPU is an IPF affiliate, which means they are drug tested. They follow WADA guidelines and all of that stuff. So then it's like, what the hell kind of situation are we in where we make rules, or they're making rules where it's like you have to take exogenous hormones in a federation where our whole approach is you can't take exogenous hormones. That's why this whole thing is like, what the fuck gets done here? What's the solution? I don't
that's
know,
not a
man.
bottle of estrogen. That's Tren.
Yeah.
You lying motherfucker.
Why is that estrogen making you cough, dude? Why is it go to an IPF a CPU meet and it's like, why do I taste metal in the bathroom? What's going on with the air here?
Oh man. Well, I mean, I think we got through the meat of that video for the most part. So comment below, guys, of what you think. And please, if we can, let's try to keep things somewhat civil because these types of topics tend to bring out a lot of just meanness and ugliness out of people. So if we can, be cool to Anne, be cool about the situation, and just let us know what you think. check out a podcast that we have with Joe and Jake, and Andy, and all of them.
Joe Sullivan AOD on Instagram and theaodcollective.com. If you want to get a hold of me, send me an email through my website, because I will guarantee I'll get back to your Instagram DM, but it might take like 6 months. So just hit me up on my website.
Strength's never weakness. Weakness never strength. Catch you guys later. Bye.